All right, good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, and anyone else.
Bonjour.
That was fast. My name is Vince Bruno. I help organize 1 Million Cups each week. Thank you for coming. If you've been here before, well, who has never been here before? Ah, so you've all been here before, and so you're all like, whoa, new setup, right? Trying a new thing. We'll take feedback later, and we'll see how it goes, and next week you'll notice whether or not we like it. A couple of announcements before we get started on 1 Million Cups. One, Key Start applications are open currently, and it's $10,000 this time. So if you know somebody who has an idea that could use 10 grand, double the juice here. The deadline to get those applications in is June 3rd, so between now and then, get a proposal together and get it in. Open co-working at the Nest downtown above Sugar is today. In the past 2 weeks, they've converted 3 new members, so it's working. Co-working is cool. If you were going to work by yourself anyway, you might as well work around some other people, get some good new ideas. Third Thursday is next Thursday, the third Thursday of the month, and it's at 5 p.m. at Rodell's. It's going to feature Andrew Agostini, who spoke here a few weeks back about SciAS. He munges data.
It does munge data.
We're going to feature Andrew. The GPEDC is hosting an annual event on May 5th, and tickets are available, are available online, about $30 each, but it's a gala to get to know what's going on at the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council. Ooh, GPEDC. Beyond that, today we have Mike and Brian, who came to us. They already presented in Bloomington. They have a company called How Do We? Are you guys from Bloomington, Normal?
Chicago, Bloomington.
Way out. From Chicago and Bloomington, so let's give them a round of applause. And do what they got to say.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having us here. It's a great turnout here. You guys are really showing Bloomington up. We are How Do We Inc. I'm Michael Anderson, president. My background is in finance. I worked for about 2.5 years working for an investment bank that specialized in energy and related subsectors.
My name is Brian Letster. I'm currently a student at Illinois State University studying business entrepreneurship. Previously, I was in the United States Army as a cavalry scout, and Mike and I have been pursuing How Do We ever since then.
Mm-hmm. So to kind of give you some background, I'll tell you a quick story on kind of how this all started. I was working in Chicago, made good money, a good job, but I felt like there was still kind of a big hole in not fulfilling, especially in Chicago, seeing a lot of things going on that just problems that weren't being solved. Went to pick up a friend of mine who was a teacher on the south side. We pull up outside the school to pick her up, and outside the building was a separate building on the campus that was burned down and boarded up. And I said, what's that building? She said, oh, that was our old cafeteria, and it's been there for 2 years. I said, someone burned that down 2 years ago, and no one's touched it. They said, we don't have any funding. So that's when I started to look into it, and I realized CPS has a $1.1 billion budget deficit. If you go to their capital improvements webpage, there's nothing there. They just literally say we can't fund any projects right now. So as I started to think, well, specific to that project, what if there was a group of people that wanted to refurbish that building, or just give the people that are the kids that are going to that school an opportunity to have an equal setup as everybody else in every other district that in the city of Chicago and in Illinois. So then I started to look into it more and found out that you could go through a private fundraiser who is a for-profit. Most of them are for-profit entities that they basically broker between wealthy individuals who are looking to donate money to schools. They take a percentage and then they give it to whatever project or whatever group of projects are brokering or jockeying for their business. So when I realized that the crowdfunding model could be applied here, that if people were given the opportunity to choose which projects, capital projects with government entities or other nonprofits with similar causes, that we could provide kind of further due diligence in being the agent between the transaction. So now a government entity can come to us, say, I have this project. Say, okay, so let's lay out the budget. Let's form an agreement that every dollar that we raise is going towards this project in this way, so that you as a donor are able to have the full disclosure of where every dollar is going, which led us to, and then kind of to go beyond that, we realized that if we were a nonprofit, 501c3 federal recognized nonprofit, that we could directly work with government entities and maintain full tax deductibility on all donations collected. So that's what we've been pursuing now for the past since September, obtaining our 501c3, getting our platform set up on our crowdfunding platform online, which has been up and running for a couple weeks now. And if you want to talk about them.
So I'm going to touch base on the website, howdowe.org. It's our primary funding platform. Like Mike stated, it is up and running. Currently, we do not have any projects on it. It's more in an informational stage as we're finalizing with clients as of right now. Very simple to use. You would log on, basically homepage. You have specific projects that you can view. So anything from, we try to keep a good variety of projects such as public schools, transportation, park districts, and other nonprofits. And we also support and encourage green energy technology. We realize that's up and coming and it's important. So the website, also you go on it, there's going to be like a Google Maps basically showing where each project's done. So kind of build that loyalty, like community loyalty. And we also have newsletters that you can sign up for that come out on a weekly basis.
So to give you an idea of the value proposition that creates, both from the institution side and the donor side, for the institution, it's organizational assistance. A lot of times, or in our conversations with these government entities, they kind of say, well, we know what our problems are and where we need help, but we need help kind of putting together the budget and kind of seeing it through in the marketing phase and raising the funds. And that's where we come in. Whereas a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter is you basically starting your own campaign, that you can put anything you want on there. You're fully responsible for marketing it, for going out and doing your own legwork. We are a project team. We are individually taking each of these projects and marketing them individually, trying to find corporate sponsors, individuals who will support them. So we provide kind of that full length of support. So that includes marketing services, a fundraising platform that they can have multiple projects on there that can all be fundraised at that one place. And then help foster relationships within the community. And then in terms of the donors, accommodation and choices in terms of being able to, accommodation if you want to support green energy technology, you can find that. If you want to support the education system, you can find that. Funding assurances so that when you give your X amount of dollars, that you know exactly where it's going, how it'll be applied. And if it's not funded fully, we do our fundraising on a best efforts platform, meaning that say if it's a $10,000 project, to refurbish a library, and if the full $10,000 will refurbish the entire library, we would work out with them. So if it was $2,000 was raised, we would buy books for the library. If $5,000 were raised, we would refurbish part of the library. And so we'd have different funding levels so that whatever amount we get to, it will be disclosed as to how that will be used in that way. So that way, it's best efforts. And then keeping in constant communication every step of the way on each project of, in terms of, okay, it's been funded, here's the timeline now that you can expect to see for it to be done. Because a lot of times we're going to anticipate this to be in your community, something that you want to see done.
So our business is basically broken up into two segments. Currently, it's just Mike and I that run everything. Mike takes care of business development. He kind of oversees the planning of projects, financial analysis of organizations that we're working with, things such as that nature, finding the right projects. Project manager is kind of my side, basically going out, making marketing efforts, communicating with the public, and raising project awareness for each project.
And to give you more of an idea of sustainability in terms of pretty small numbers that we're looking to work with. So in the beginning, we'd like to at least raise $5,000 in general donations that we'll have kind of as a jump start to be able to apply to upcoming projects and also an immediate marketing budget for the first projects that we're going to be launching. We also have dues from board members that we'll be collecting. So if we're able to have 12 projects at an average total of $7,500 per project, so that's $1,125 per month, and that's at a 15%. So we collect 15% off of the entire fundraising goal of each project, meaning that if it's a $10,000 project, we're actually going to raise $11,500 to cover our administrative costs so we can be sustainable as a business. And then in terms of cash out, hopefully we'll be in a office soon, so we'll have rent, bills, an advertising budget, and the website development, which has actually been completed and funded fully. And then this slide just as a kind of an example of where the money is going, pretty much covering what I was just saying. And then in terms of 2016 to 2017 operating income, if we were to simply increase our EBIT by, or our project size, increase it by 20%, have a 10% expenses decrease, and then adding 3 more projects, so going from $7,500 to $9,000, we can go from an EBIT of $18,980 to $20,250, and turning our balance for the overall year positive in 1 year. And that's with relatively small projects. We're looking to be having anywhere from, in the beginning, $10,000 to $15,000 projects all the way up to $100,000 projects eventually. We want to really be able to, I mean, this whole business model kind of revolves around having a good volume of projects and also a pretty high donation amount that we're going for. So to kind of cover what our next steps are, so right now we are in the process of aligning with institutions to identify projects, building a network of supporter, going out and speaking at events like this to make people aware of in the communities to which we are looking to host projects, and then secure a workspace. Brian can talk about a few of the projects that we're currently working with.
So as of right now, I'll also pull up the website at the end just to view. Right now, currently, Bloomington area has kind of been our hotspot with projects and clients as of late. Illinois State University wants to do they're building an outdoor horticulture center, and we're actually going to fund the green roof. They're doing a green roof center. So something as simple as that, it's just something that we're aligning with the schools. There's units in the area that basically want to do innovative workshops for students in high schools. And right here in Peoria, actually, we're partnering with KidNets, which is a nonprofit that funds social good, basically. And what we want to do is we want to implement KidNets into, I think it was particularly 6th grade classrooms, where it kind of teaches students that even though they are sewing hats out of yarn bought from third world countries, it also teaches them about social good, that what you do can affect someone halfway across the world in a positive way.
So we can probably pull up the website just to show them real quick.
Before you take questions,
Yep.
just a quick reminder to repeat the question back to us
Mm-hmm.
and then answer the question.
Okay.
Okay.
Here's the website. It's
hey.
kind of the home page right here. So basically on the top we have how it works about, and we will have a tab up there, a projects tab, where you can view basically all the specific projects that we've already done the groundwork for, meaning that it's already between a formal agreement between us and the public entity to start funding these projects.
So at this point, open up the questions.
I have a question. Are you only looking to work with governmental entities, or can like a little neighborhood upstart come to you guys and say, I want to do this neighborhood party for $8,000?
So the question being whether or not we can, we are restricted to working with, under our 501c3, working with nonprofits with a similar mission that are also 501c3 federal nonprofits, and then also, or government entities. So those are the only two that we are, it can't just be, kind of a community of people just kind of came together and said, we'd like to fund this project. Our answer would be, great, let's find a way to, let's find, maybe there's an organization that's already working on it, we can kind of work around that.
And that's kind of why we wanted to specialize in choosing these projects. Something in that case would be something that you may see on GoFundMe, where it's you want to raise these funds, and you would have to take over and market it and hopefully raise the funds. But the idea behind How Do We is we're doing the groundwork with specific projects that we are closely working with the public entity with.
So the idea is that these are capital projects. These are, a school that has, a better learning environment, a park, more robust park system that, all of these things combined, raise property value, lowers pressures on taxes, and helps, lower budget pressures. So it can really, and that's why, when we really stress capital projects, not just programs. These are things that really kind of affect everybody within a community. Question?
So for a lot of organizations and government entities like that, when they're looking at capital projects, one of the areas when they're talking about fundraising is grants, right? Because there's a lot of grants available. And so typically, a lot of times when they're working with somebody to help them achieve that capital project, they're looking for somebody who can help them with grant writing and administration. So I hear crowdfunding. Are you guys also going to get into the grant component? Because that can be significant.
So the question of whether or not we are, as an organization, pursuing grants as a part of each project, it's come up in discussion, but usually it's been that the public entity was already pursuing grants and that this would be a supplement to that. That's not to say that at any point we wouldn't consider, if it's a larger project and there's grants that are specifically designed for something like that, that would definitely be worked into our marketing strategy and really our capital funding strategy. So I mean, it really would depend on the project, but would definitely not rule it out.
I have two questions, one of which is kind of inspired by that.
Mm-hmm.
With respect to your contributions, are they considered to be grants to the organizations that you're funding? And the second question that I have is, I'll let you answer that, and then I'll come back.
So the question whether the funds that we raise on are considered grants given to them?
Yes, correct.
In the sense that it is delivered to them, no strings attached, and they, I mean, aside from the contract that stated how the funds were to be applied, it's their money. So it's just handed over at the end of the whatever project period timeline that we determine.
And the other question that I have is, most capital projects tend to be large dollar projects, roofs, buildings, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of scaling up from a dollar perspective, is that the direction that you guys are looking to be able to ultimately be able to fund the building of an actual building kind of financial?
Exactly, yeah. So the question of whether or not we are, our progression in terms of project size, that is a huge focus for us in that, we want to start at, it's a risk for the entity to take on or to give us a project and have it be that we might not be able to fund it. We understand that, and that's why we want to start in an area between 10 and 15,000. But then as we get that, we want to immediately take that 10 to 15,000, move on to 25,000, 50,000, and kind of keep the momentum going on a per project basis. And then in addition to that, also have smaller projects available that might be more direct to your community kind of thing. And that's the beauty of the number of institutions we're talking to. We have a wide range, but our capital projects having to do with building buildings, applying green energy technology to these buildings, like that's really what we want our big focus to be.
What's your geographic scope? Are you able to serve people who are far away?
Currently, so right now we are registered as an Illinois nonprofit, seeking our 501c3 status. So that limits us to Illinois for the moment. But once we have our 501c3, we would be able to be national. And then if we were to later want to go international, it's just as simple as refiling with the IRS, saying that we are, pursuing international projects. Here's how it'll be funded, and kind of have to take it one step at a time. Currently, we are seeking national level.
And in the long run, we are trying to get basically teams of how do we in each major city across the states. So.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
I forgot my question.
No problem.
That's a good question. I like that one.
Yes, ma'am.
Assuming most government entities, when they are getting ready to do a project that involves capital, don't they usually have to go out for bid? And how would you work in with, competing against trying to get a bid? Is it for project management? Is that what you would be looking for?
Mm-hmm.
But when you come in with funding as well, for me, I'm a little bit fuzzy on how this is all working.
Absolutely, and it depends on the system. The question of whether or not there's a system to be able to basically obtain a project, and whether or not it's through a bidding system or any other way. And to answer your question, specifically in Chicago, there is a bidding system. There are a number of fundraisers that are jockeying for an opportunity to have these projects. However, what we want to do, that's one, that's going to get us in the door, and then two, that's a little bit different, is we are providing kind of that full range of services that go along with the project, as opposed to just looking at the percentage that we're taking. And then also, in terms of, I'm sorry, I forgot my second point.
I could take over.
Yeah.
The kind of our competitive edge that we've noticed that schools really like is having nonprofit status. It kind of opens the door to schools, because there really isn't that option yet of basically having kind of like this fundraising type of entity that helps them. But normally professional fundraisers can sometimes charge up to 40 or 60%. So it's taking a big chunk. They're paying them a good amount. With How Do We, being nonprofit, is we are basically we're taking their workload off their plate, kind of funding it, and in return, all the donations through donors, and it's all tax write-offs at the end of the year.
And the other thing I was going to say, we're launching right now a program specific, and to kind of finish your question, some organizations, specifically like Chicago, larger, do have a bidding system. Others don't. Yep. We're finding, and then what we're doing to kind of counter that. So like by the end of the week, we'll have a How Do We Kickstart Fund, or Jumpstart Fund. I'm sorry. That will be basically funds that will be allocated to, people support the cause of, say, Chicago Public Schools. Those funds are set aside for us to be able to kind of approach them as a showing of good faith. We've already raised $5,000 towards this project. So now we're not essentially bidding. We've already got, a collection of the funds, and now we're saying, allow us to finish it. So that's one way that we're approaching it. Yes, sir.
From a philosophical standpoint, not-for-profit could be anything from a sports team to cancer research. Have you guys come to any ideas in terms of the kinds of not-for-profits that you're looking to kind of partner with?
Yes. So actually, could you bring up that first slide? Yep. When we filed, so we are for charitable, educational, and scientific, I believe, which allows us to raise funds for any educational program that's either by a public entity or a nonprofit. Scientific would be, it shows up, scientific would be any publicly funded research, and then charitable purposes for that includes nonprofits, and also lessening the burdens of government. So that allows us to be able to give it directly to public institutions. So those three kind of categories are where we sit. Where we can't raise funds for is anything that's associated with a religious entity or a political entity. We cannot go near that, which makes sense. Yes, sir?
How did you guys meet?
We've been friends since we were kids.
Yep, 5th grade, we got into a fight with each other.
Yeah. Over a soccer game?
Soccer game, yeah.
Is that how you got that scar?
No, I tripped and fell in church, actually, and that's how I got this scar. I wish I had a better story. But, yeah.
So team-wise, what's your next, if you guys were to get 2 huge projects tomorrow, what are your deficiencies? What would you be looking for in another teammate? How does this scale is what I guess what I'm getting at.
Absolutely. So we're looking to focus on our marketing efforts in terms of, depending on the type of, where the project is and what type of project is, we would go to work immediately looking for corporate sponsors, people who are just in the community, outside the community, people that would support this cause and be able to right away either be able to fund it or contribute to it, and then going through and seeking individuals who would support the cause too. So I mean, our next biggest focus will be marketing, in terms of, we get the projects, boom, we go, we fund that first project, we fund that second project, and that'll be a matter of the awareness within the community. Yes, ma'am.
A big part of fundraising, right, and for, especially for kind of localized projects that you need to get people behind, is relationships, is having really strong relationships with the companies and the businesses and the people in that community, which can make fundraising a challenge for people who don't have those relationships established or don't have, maybe aren't in a specific community.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you hope to overcome that?
Mm-hmm. So, question of how are we going to overcome the difficulties of building relationships that aren't already there, essentially, for each of the fundraising projects. So, I mean, that's where the added level of service from us. I mean, we are a young company at this point in time, but as we continue to grow and our popularity kind of grows, and in addition to, I mean, us going and presenting at events like this and connecting with other, the beauty of being a nonprofit is being able to align with other nonprofits and be able to, kind of work through them and garner the same relationships. We're all trying to do the same thing, kind of thing. So it'll be a localized effort to partner with the people, the infrastructure that already exists, and working through those relationships. And to answer your question, I mean, without having a project yet, do we have that necessarily right now? No. Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about the challenge of going and seeking corporate sponsorship as a not-for-profit on behalf of another governmental agency that, if they contributed to directly, might give them the same kind of tax benefit? Have you guys had those kinds of discussions yet?
Mm-hmm.
Not sure if I understand.
So the question kind of is, what value are we adding to corporations that are already donating to public entities?
Yes.
So the value we add is kind of what I touched on earlier is we quickly realize that a lot of these bigger corporations are within a fiscal year always usually have a percentage to the side that they're looking to donate to some sort of cause, nonprofit, charity, and
For tax purposes.
for
really.
tax
I mean,
purposes.
they
And
just
what
already have
we're
it.
trying, what we want to do is we want to be the site where they know, hey, we haven't donated yet this year, or we're struggling with it because time management, the works of normal daily business. We want to be that outlet that is known for, hey, it's as simple as picking a project that our organization aligns with and donating towards, and ensuring on our end we ensure that all of the funds go directly towards that project. That's kind of the big thing that we wanted to focus on. Is a lot of people struggle with donating in today just because they don't necessarily know where exactly that dollar is going, which rightfully so. There's scams, there's scams in a lot of nonprofits. That was the big idea, is we want to ensure that the dollar you are donating, we ensure that it is going right to the project and nowhere else.
One of our board members is actually a CPA that her comment was, our difficulty will be, that these companies do have this money set aside, but the difficulty will be finding ones that don't already have it set aside to something else that is just kind of recurring. So it's going to go back to building the relationships with them to kind of show ourselves as a worthy cause. So,
Say, you do find a company, a corporate sponsor that you connect with, can they open that up to their individual employees to donate to?
the question of whether or not a sponsoring corporation could open up the donations to employees.
From employees?
I'm sorry, from employees, yes. It might depend on, that might cross over into conflict of interest on their end, because I think if they were to, if it can somehow be that they're benefiting, so it depends on their contribution. If it's if Dell gave a bunch of computers and the employees also donated, if the rulings that I've read on it is if any benefit can be tied back to your company or something that you are benefiting from, or you or your company are benefiting from, it's a conflict of interest. So I don't think, thinking out loud, I don't think so, that it would be a conflict of interest, but they might prevent them. We wouldn't prevent them from
I just
donating.
wonder, I mean, it seems to me that would be a good way to engage employees when we're looking at healthy workplace cultures.
Mm-hmm.
You know, say you've got Maui Gym and they have a particular project that they're gonna work with you on as far as sponsoring, but they're like, you know, we're really employee interactive here and we want them to also feel like they're a part of, you know, the growth of whatever it is your project. And just allow their employees to also donate toward how do we, in this particular project that you're working with the employer on a Maui Gym say.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
what United Way does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Model that
I think
exists.
it strikes me that when you're talking, one way you can think about yourself as a United Way model, but that's project-based versus, United Way tends to fund ongoing agency work, right? It's more programmatic. You might look at the United Way model as an example of a project base, but basically when you talk, companies align with United Way for the very reason you're talking about. They don't have a lot of time, they want to do something good.
Right.
They believe United Way is good at identifying agencies that are using the money wisely, working on very important, programs for the community. And so companies that give to United Way, they're doing that to kind of eliminate some of the work involved with trying to figure that out themselves. There's a trust factor there. And then they engage their employees, right? So they do United Way campaigns internally. The company gives, sometimes the company says, we'll match. So any dollar our folks give, we're gonna match, so it's kind of this engagement model. You may think about that as being a model, but thinking about it as a project-based model in a community or region versus an ongoing programmatic. I think it's a good model for you to think about.
And it's something we can kind of feel out ahead of time too. If we build those relationships with those companies, what kind of projects are you interested in, kind of thing, and then we look for a project that fits their needs, kind of thing. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
How do we restrict it by the number of individuals that could contribute to how do we versus corporate sponsorships? So do you have an unlimited number of individuals that could give to you?
Absolutely. Yes, we have an unlimited amount of potential donors.
I think we're gonna have to start wrapping it up for today. But final question we ask every presenter, thank you guys for presenting, is how can we here in this audience help you achieve your next goal or break through your next hurdle, whatever the case may be?
Just in terms of your involvement in the Peoria community, if there are organizations, government or nonprofit that is looking to fundraise a goal that kind of aligns with us, we'd love to be in touch with them. And then also, if you're supportive of our cause, we'll by the end of the week have that Jumpstart Fund available if you'd like to help us move towards our first couple projects.
Very good.
Thanks, guys.
Check out their website.
Thank you.
Very good.